Good morning, everybody. My name is Brian Cody, your digital disciple, and I want to thank you for joining me today. And we're going to go over something that's near and dear to my heart today. In the first couple of videos, we've gone over how we're all connected one to another. This planet, we're connected to each other by people, and we're connected to our Creator, God. In the second one, we went over how people have all these different reasons why they can't get close to God, and we gave you examples of how there is no reason why you can't get close to God. In this video, we're going to talk about something near and dear to my heart, and this is what it is. This subject is religion, because people come to me and they're like, man, I can't be with God. I can't be with Jesus. I'm not a religious person. That's just not who I am. And I'm here to tell you, if that's the way you feel, outstanding. You're in good company. You know why? And I'm going to say something that some people might consider controversial, but it's the truer words have never been spoken. And here's what it is. There was never a more anti-religious man that walked this planet than Jesus Christ himself. And I'm going to show you that today. I'm going to show you using his own words. In this book right here, I will show you how God wanted nothing to do with religion. Religion is a man-made thing. Religion is man's attempt to reconcile himself with God, which in and of itself is blasphemous. Because God sent Jesus here as our reconciler, as our redeemer. That's what he does. That's what he did. And we can't add to what Jesus did. We can thank him for it. We can love him for it, but we certainly can't add to it. So I'm going to go through this process today. I'm going to show you how, if you're anti-religion, that's not an issue. God doesn't want religious people. Jesus doesn't need religious people. Jesus fought religious people, and religious people fought Jesus. The reason he got put on that cross, it was religious people that put him there. They were called the Pharisees. They tried to set traps for him. They wanted to catch him so they could disown him, so they could say he's not who he says he is, and they could kill him. And that's what he did. That's exactly what they did. They killed him. They put him up on a cross for being Jesus, because they couldn't prove he wasn't the Son of God. And it got them angry. So he doesn't want religious people. What he wants is a relationship. And in the second half of this video, I'm going to explain that to you using his own words. It's relationship over religion. That's what we're here to talk about today. God bless you, and thank you for joining us. All right, because as I spoke of before, the Pharisees, which are the religious people, they were always trying to catch Jesus in some kind of a trap, either using words or using deeds. They wanted to disavow his name. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to prove that he was a false prophet, which actually he obviously wasn't. So I want to talk about today is he was teaching. He was kneeling down in the sand teaching one day, and the Pharisees came rolling in with a woman they had caught in an adulterous affair. How they caught her, how they knew she was there, they never say anything about it. But regardless, they caught her in an adulterous affair, and they dragged this woman, half naked, kicking and screaming, down to where Jesus is. And as he's teaching, they disrupt his teaching, and they drag her in and say to Jesus, "We caught this woman in an adulterous affair." Now, Moses says in the law, and notice they'll always pull up the law because these are man-made rules, not God-made rules. Moses said in the law that she should be stoned. Well, what do you say? And this, I'm going to show you the contempt that Jesus had for these people, these religious people. I love the fact that he was kneeling down teaching. He was writing in the sand with his finger. That's what they said. He was down on his knees teaching, and he hears this commotion of these people dragging this woman in, right? So Jesus stands up. What's all this noise? What's all this commotion about? And as soon as he sees it's the Pharisees, as soon as he sees it's the religious people, you know what he does? He kneels back down and starts teaching again. And that just shows me the contempt that he had for these people, because haven't you ever been someplace and you hear a big noise and you're like, what's going on? And you stand up and you're like, oh, it's just those people. Oh, man, come on, man. And boom, he went back to what was important, which was teaching the people. But the Pharisees, the religious people, man, they weren't going to let this thing go because they figured they had him trapped. So they said to him once again, hey, we asked you a question. We asked you a question. They said, we caught this woman in an adulterous affair. Now Moses said she should be stoned to death. What do you say? And I love what Jesus did. Because see, he always keeps himself lower. He never considered himself higher than anybody. But as they're standing there with these complaints trying to get him caught, here's what he does. He stands up and he says to him, you know what? No problem. we can stone her. But let the first one amongst you who is without sin cast the first stone. Let the sinless man cast the first stone. And you know what happens after that? Silence. Because they start looking at each other and they understand there's not one of us here who is without sin. The only one there that was without sin was the man that was kneeling down and teaching. And as soon as he tells them that, he kneels back down and starts teaching again. And no rocks were thrown that day. Not one rock was thrown that day. Rocks were dropped that day. And interestingly enough, it says the stones were dropped from the oldest to the youngest. Think about that. The oldest men dropped their rocks first. You know why? Because they had the most sin. And they knew what they had done. And Jesus went back to teaching, and the Pharisees went back to walking. Except this time they walked away. And they left the adulterous woman there. And after they all were gone, from the youngest to the oldest, stones left laying on the ground because there wasn't a sinless person there. They were trying to catch the sinless person using sin. That never works. And as they walked away, that young lady was standing there. And this is what Jesus says. He says this, and I love this. He says to her, when Jesus had lifted himself up and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are those thine accusers? Hath no man condemned thee? She said, No man, Lord. And Jesus said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Two things about that I love. One, she already called him Lord. She knew who he was. She had no doubt in her mind who he was. And he said this, they came to condemn you, the religious people. But where'd they go? Because as soon as the light was taken off of you and shined on them, they left. They were gone. And he said, since your accusers, and by the way, the devil is called the accuser of the brethren, which is, I know that's why he used that word. As soon as your accusers left, she said, did they not condemn you? I thought they came here to condemn you. When really they came here to condemn him, and he knew that. But they were gone, as religious people always do. When you turn the lights on, they're like cockroaches. They go running. That's what happens. He says, if they don't condemn you, neither do I. But here's the most important part. He says this. He says, go forth and sin no more. See, that's how Jesus is. That's who Jesus is. He's not here to condemn anybody. He understands that we're all sinners. There was only one sinless man, and it was him. And he understands that. But what he'll tell you is this. I don't condemn you. The world can't condemn you. Don't condemn yourself. Just go forth and sin no more. That's the key right there. Just go forth. Whatever you've done, Jesus doesn't condemn you. If the world condemns you, let them, because tomorrow they'll condemn you for something else. And tomorrow Jesus will be there with open arms saying, I don't condemn you now. I won't condemn you then. I never have. Just go forth and sin no more. That's all you have to do. So in the next thing I'm going to talk about is this. People think that Jesus was this meek little man who walked around and I wish everybody would just be nice and get along. And I don't understand why we have to be angry. I'm going to show you in the very next part of this story how Jesus goes at it with who? The religious. That's who. Here we go.